Amy from Blue Seal Equestrian, and for our Ride of the Week series episode today, we have Wayne Dell. Hello.
How's it, Amy?
Good, and you?
Good, good.
Wayne, tell me a little bit about your riding career. How did you get into horses? When did you get into horses?
Man, this is going to take some time. Horses have always been in our family. My mom's side of the family had a lot of horses, and being a farm kid and growing up on the farm, it was a must-have to have a pony.
Yeah.
So my dad also did quite a lot. He wasn't big into his horses, but him and his cousin got into a training business where they used to get horses out of the Free State that used to come down on trains and back them and sell them on.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like been part of the family and part of the life as we went along. And I think I got my first pony when I was 3.
Okay.
My dad ended up at an auction and some Shetland pony was being sold. And
those are the best.
Murphy, you get a Shetland pony, you know all about it for the rest of your life. I think it nearly cured me from horse riding.
I also had one of those.
So yeah, it kind of started like just being a farm kid. My brother and I used to ride on the farm, and yeah, we had to move from the farm into town with school and stuff. So we wanted to ride more. And then my mom made the fatal mistake of taking us to the Grahamstown riding club for lessons. Because we used to just bush ride, bareback, off you go, have a jolt.
Have fun.
Yeah, and then we kind of started there. It was quite late. I think my brother and I were 11 already at the time, 11, 12. So we weren't competing like a lot of the kids that started at the age of 6. And yeah, I was quite nervous. I sent my brother off to go and ride because I didn't want to ride in a saddle. So he must have had about 3 or 4 riding lessons before me. And then I thought, oh no, I'll try this. Okay. And I think at the time my instructor was Margot Brooks, and she gave me a little pony. I'll never forget, a little Palomino pony called Jazz Time. And it got so hot in the lesson, I ended up in the corner and the thing went and lay down and rolled with me. I was like, I'm done, I'm not coming back to ride this damn pony. But the next week I was back there riding again. So yeah, from there it just grew. And then my dad again made the mistake and got us 2 ponies to compete, and we wanted to show jump.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the 2 of us, my brother and I, being an identical twin, the competition between us was good.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure.
Yeah, we weren't worried about anyone else in the arena. As long as we were jumping against each other, it was fine.
Beating each other.
Yeah, so we got 2 ponies from, mine was a riding school pony and his was a young pony. And we jumped that in the old grades, which used to be CD, CB, CA. So we jumped children's CD. And then from there, progressively, we got onto our thoroughbreds. My brother got his thoroughbred from Anthony Kay, a horse by the name of On the Catwalk, very feisty grey mare. And Ryan jumped that up into the junior open level. And then I struggled a bit with a junior, to get a junior horse. At the time, I went and got a horse from a farmer, which was really, really good, which never measured. It was a pony.
Okay.
His name was Moonlight. So he was just a hack, and I competed him and jumped him. I actually took him into the junior level and jumped him right up to junior D grade. And then I sold him to a girl called Dominique Delary, who actually went and got her provincial colours, EP colours in all the disciplines from dressage right through to show jumping. He jumped open. Sure. So he was like a really special.
Those farm ponies were something else.
Really, really special pony. And then I eventually got my thoroughbred called Foreign Source.
Okay.
And he did a lot of eventing at the time and stuff from a girl by the name of Lisa Putter. And yeah, I jumped him up to open. Yeah, it was at the time it was JB, JA.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we just carried on riding from there right through to matric. Always after school it was, are you studying or what are you going to do? So my brother and I both opted for a
Were
gap.
you really studying?
We went to school. I didn't say we got good marks, we went to school. So we both decided on a gap year. And then we said, no, we're going overseas to Ireland, where we were very fortunate enough to end up with the Smith family. Ronnie Smith, the late Ronnie Smith, he passed away probably 2 years ago now. And we were just very lucky. He's a world-class international rider. His sons have all his kids have jumped in the open 1 meter 50, 1 meter 60 classes. And we were lucky enough to spend, I think it was 2 months with him at the time. There was a bit of a problem with our work permits and stuff, Ireland and South Africa not being a member of the EU. So we had to come home early so we didn't get blacklisted.
Okay.
But because we'd spent that time there, I got such a good Oh, Ronnie, he like really took a liking to me, and he like begged me to come back the next year.
Okay.
So that would have been around 2004.
Okay.
And then 2005, I had my bags packed, ready to go. My brother decided he's not going back. He's going to go and study, and to do his equine farrier sciences and blacksmithing. So he went off to Joburg, and I was stupid and climbed on one of my breeding stallions with a halter and shattered my collarbone in 6 places.
Oh no.
So that I thought was going to put me out for 8 weeks, and in the end it was an operation.
Sure.
6 months later, have plates removed, and then I thought I was ready to go again, and I subsequently broke it twice.
Oh, no.
After that, I broke it jumping.
My
My brother's also at a show, and it just snapped clean off. And the first time I moved a doorstop.
Oh.
So I was out for a whole year.
Such bad luck.
Yeah, so that's that. And then Ronnie was like, I'm still waiting for you. I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's amazing.
So 2006, we really kicked off, and I went over for 6 months.
Okay.
And what an experience. What an eye-opening experience from being this farm kid who's ridden open level here and competed here.
Yeah.
I
Played
think
on some ponies.
I think that's where my riding took off.
Yeah.
It took it up a level. So this time we were a bit clever. The last time we went in for winter season, so we got the tail end of winter season where we jumped indoor, and then I did a little bit of outdoor. This time I went back for outdoor season.
Okay.
Which was nice. There were a lot of shows. We traveled everywhere.
Yeah.
I got to ride. No, not as cold, but yet when you're in Ireland, I was there for 6 months and we had sunshine for 3 days. It rained.
Yeah.
I think you kind of get tired of grey, green.
That's what you're going to get when you go to Ireland.
So I went over there, and I was lucky enough to be given 2 sponsor horses.
Oh, wow.
By the lady of Doc, I can't remember her name now. She had two very good sport horse mares that were given to me to compete at the time. So she paid all my entries and everything, and I was very lucky with that. And then also Ronnie had a triple heart bypass, so he couldn't do any riding anymore himself. So I got to ride a lot of his young horses and any horses that came into the yard. So one of the best horses I rode there was a horse by the name of my college boy, who got sold after I left to the Irish Army for their open team for the 160 classes. He was brilliant, full Irish draft. And you would never think that a horse that size could jump. He was, I think, 18 hands, but built like a tank. You know, not your typical sport horse now. So and then I literally got to ride. I think I was there, like I said, 6 months. It was 21 weeks I was there. I rode every weekend. I was at a show.
Wow.
And it's very different to here. We have set calendars, and you have to enter way in advance to go to a certain show. There you got your license to ride, so it looked like a little driver's card. So I sent in all my details to the Irish Sport Horse thing. They sent me back my license. It still had it said foreigner, South African, and I was like, I've got this little card now I'm quite cool. And you had to just take that. And each horse, we've got our passports. Their horses had a little book like that, which actually almost looked like an old checkbook.
Yeah.
And it had the horse's details in, and then whoever the rider was on that day would fill out their details and their license number at the bottom. And you'd rock up to a show venue like here. You'd go to the caravan, which is on the corner there, which is, say there's a 110 class happening there. You'd fill out that thing, take that, hand your 20 quid to the person, give it to them, hop on your horse and jump the class.
Sure.
So if your horse jumped well in the 120 ring, there's a 130 ring over there, you'd do the same thing and go to the one. And the horses progressed so much quicker in that system than the system we have here in South Africa.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoyed, because I took horses that I got there were jumping 90 by the time they were jumping 130 by the time I was leaving.
Yeah.
And it was just a whole different ball game altogether.
So just to pause you there, when you said that you took them from 90 to 130, that obviously were a little bit going when you got there.
Not at all.
No, really?
I backed the horses from scratch. Yeah.
Sure.
So they produced them quite quickly because the other thing that they have there are their age categories. So as a 6-year-old, so look here in South Africa now, they've got the Young Performance Horse Series, and they must jump a certain height at a certain time. So by the time they turn 8 years old there, 9 years old there, they have to be jumping in the 140s.
Okay.
So it's quite a drive towards getting them up the grades. And the shows also were awesome. There were shows all over the place. So I would ride at a show on a Wednesday at a different venue. On a Friday, I'd go to another venue. And on a Saturday, I'd jump another venue. And if I liked that, or I wanted to go that, you weren't stuck to, I entered here this weekend, I must ride. But
this is where I have to go.
The difference was we travel 100 kilometers down the road to Grahamstown, 130 kilometers, and we're going to spend a weekend.
Yeah.
Not for them. We would get in the truck here, drive there, compete, drive all the way back home again, sleep, decide to drive back there again tomorrow if you wanted to, or drive 50 k's that way to another show.
Sure.
And that was kind of the life. That's
quite a busy life.
Yeah. So I used to, when I was there, I used to ride 12 horses a day. That was what I had to get through, and I had 45 stables that I had to get through as well.
That's a lot.
So you worked your ass off. There's no other way but to explain it.
Yeah.
I went there as a staunch fella like I am now, and I came back like a beanpole. I think I was at my best riding weight when I came back there. I think I was like a whopping 79 kg.
Sure. And when you say you travel to so many shows and that, would you then obviously sit down and choose which horses you would take and which horses would have a little bit of time off, or does it not work like that? Just go, go, go.
We were so lucky we had so many horses. So depending on what show. So we used to obviously always the biggest pot.
Yeah.
So, and that was the one thing why people can ride professionally there is because at the time when I was there, I don't know what it costs now. It cost you about 20 pounds to enter a class, which then wasn't a lot of money for them if you, obviously if you're converting now. But your pots were between 10 and 15,000 pounds if you win it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the biggest classes I rode for had a 50,000 pound pot.
Yeah.
And it was one of the qualifiers.
It makes it worth it then to travel to all the shows.
So it was one of the qualifiers for Dublin show.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to ride against the reigning world champion Dermot Lennon at the time. We both jumped in the 120 class. We had young horses. Him and I both didn't qualify. We missed the places. You had to be in the top 6 to qualify. I think I got a 9th or something out of about 100 riders. So like I say, that just took my riding to the next level. And with Ronnie's guidance,
all that experience.
Yeah, Ronnie's guidance was brilliant. He was just a short little Irishman like us. He had done every equine discipline you could think of at the time. He'd done flat track racing. He'd done racing.
Oh, wow.
He'd done steeplechase. He just was one of those.
Everything.
He was a really true, genuine horseman.
Sure.
I don't think I could find anyone.
That's an amazing experience.
Yeah.
You'll never get that kind of experience.
Yeah, and I was just, I have to say this to Jen Wiley at the time. My brother and I actually went to an interview for her family to go to Scotland.
Okay.
But the reason why we chose Ireland is because we had already had family in Ireland.
Okay.
And when we got stuck in Ireland, couldn't get jobs because of the whole EU thing. We phoned the Low Mitchells in Scotland and said, listen, can we come over to you? And spoke to, I think, Sandra at the time. And Sandra said, guys, we've just hired 2 others. We can't take you on. But hang on, we've got friends in Northern Ireland. Would you like to go there?
Okay.
And it was like, yes, just, you know.
Just anything.
So we were actually based right down in the south in Thurles. And we had to catch the train all the way to Dublin, bus it all the way to Northern Ireland and end up in Omagh, up in Northern Ireland, where we got to meet Ronnie, Stephen and Harvey at the time. And those are the 2 sons that were still at home that were riding and competing. A lot of his other kids had gone on to do other things in their lives. And my brother worked for Stephen, who was jumping, in the big top grades. He rode a horse by the name of Lali's Western Desert. And then we were lucky enough to ride those 160 horses.
Sure.
That's where you actually learn your most, is by getting on those top quality horses.
Getting on a teacher.
And you have to be, and this is where people get it very, very wrong. People seem to think that getting yourself a top open produced horse and giving it to a young kid is the best thing out there. It really isn't at the end of the day, because that has been produced by a professional and they're not easy to ride.
Yeah.
They like a certain way of going.
Yeah.
They like to be put on the money all the time.
Yeah.
And then you see the results going downhill because the kid isn't as accurate as the the top rider. So I've always been a firm believer of like getting your kid onto a thoroughbred early. It's a forward-going horse. They know how to go forward, and teaching them the basics from there. Once they've got the basics on those horses, then progress to get your open horses. But you have to really know what you're doing, because you will disappoint yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, in the long run.
For sure.
So yeah, young horses, open horses, and like I say, that's where you get your experience from, and riding those top international horses.
Yeah.
The one thing that I really take from being over there riding, yes, I say I went to a lot of shows and jumped a lot, but actually when it came to the work of the horses and the training and stuff, we didn't really jump a lot at home.
Okay.
There was a club down the road from us, or a show venue called Vintner, and we would go there once a week. So the show happened on the weekend. There were always shows, either practice shows or qualifying shows or whatever.
Yeah.
Either it'd be indoor, outdoor, sand menage or whatever, and the tracks would still be up.
Okay.
So once a week, my boss would say, "Hey, come on, load up the truck. We got the 12th birthday. We'd load up as many young horses as we could fit in there.
And
we'd book it out,
training.
and we go and train the day there."
Sure.
The rest of the time, the horses were. So look, the Irish are not big into their flat work.
For sure.
I got there and I did a lot of flat work because of my grounding that I had here. But the biggest thing for them is fitness, strength training. Always remember, the fitter your horse is, the easier the results come. The easier if you want to teach that horse to do a leg yield, if it's unfit, it's going to fight and kick around and stuff. But if it's fit, it'll take to the work easier.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing about them. My horses were super fit. We did hill work. They had long lanes that we could trot up and down. Luckily enough, where we were there, they had 3 farms. So there were big fields to ride in. Even though it was pouring with rain and stuff, I learned to be a duck. I rode in the rain.
I think a lot of people can take that.
Yeah. So you
take that advice. Learn to be a duck.
You just got to put your mind in it, and that's what I did. And also, being summer season that I was there, I'd start early in the morning and I'd stop riding my last horses about 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Because the sun's shining like this at 11 o'clock. It's the weirdest thing. Your mind and your body doesn't quite figure out what's going on. You should be sleeping. I'd go in for dinner at like 7 o'clock, and then I'd like turn around and I'd walk straight out and go and tack up another horse and get on with it.
I love it. That's the life.
So, I took the opportunity and I got the most out of it. I really wanted to become a top rider at the time.
Yeah. Wayne, tell me a little bit about your life here now in South Africa. What have you been up to? I know you've got a few things planned, so tell me a little bit about what you've been up to, and then we can get on to what you're going to be up to.
So from obviously coming back from overseas, I rode and competed here. I've been breeding horses since 1999. Started out with, let's say 1999 I started breeding my sport horses.
Okay.
But before that I wanted to try and hit the pony market because I thought there weren't any good ponies out here. And trying to get into that. And breeding ponies ain't as easy as people think it is. To try and get the right thing for the kids.
Sure.
So hence that's where the whole.
Also quite a small market.
Yeah, and that's where the whole Delbros equestrian kind of got going. So as my brother and I, we used to have a training business together where we used to train lots of farm horses and stuff for the local farmers in the area through school, and then obviously after school, when we both came back from overseas, there was a time period where we got back and we didn't have a job, and he wasn't going to study it, so we carried on with our training business.
Okay.
So it was the Dell's training yard, and we had our own yard, and we
on your farm?
No, I had a property place in Grahamstown.
All right.
So that's where we did based our training. We also used to travel to farmers and go and train for farmers on their farms.
Sure.
And then obviously we started breeding the ponies, and then I ended up with horses instead of ponies. So you don't get fooled. The mare may look this size and you've got the perfect stallion there, and you end up with something that's 15 hands.
Yeah.
So I bred some really nice ponies. I sold some really nice ponies. A couple of them ended up at Assegai Stud for their riding school.
Okay.
Which one of them was, if I can remember, one of them was called Caribbean Queen, which was subsequently sold to Kenya.
Oh, wow.
And it's still competing and doing a lot of eventing in Kenya. And then I sold a beautiful pony, patchy pony, which went to Cape Town and also did very well in the eventing scene there. So yeah, so we started with the ponies, and then in 1999 I bred my first sport horse. So the reason why I wanted to go into that, Grahamstown used to have an annual warm blood auction.
Okay.
Years ago, where all the warm blood studs in the area would bring their horses to the Grahamstown Riding Club. We'd set up free jumping pens.
Amazing.
So you would have all your Fonts, your Davenports, your Polands, all the warm bloods would come there, and we'd auction them off. They would go into the thing, and I stood there and I said to my dad, I want one of these. My dad looked at me and goes, you better start making some money.
I know that feeling.
So it was like this whole thing, and at the time my brother and I were also with my dad like wheeling and dealing farm horses. So we'd go and find a farmer who was getting rid of some horses, and bought a mare at the time, which she was like 15.3, but she was like a 2-3-year-old, and she looked like a warm blood. She was built like a warm blood. You go to any farm and you ask them, what is it? It's a boerperd. Oh, well, I bought a boerperd, but it, we don't really know what her bloodlines were.
Yeah.
And I got permission from the chairman at the time to put my horse in the loose jumping arena. And we popped her in there, and while she was showing some skill there that the warm bloods are going, and I was like, I want to breed her this, Dad. Yeah, and she says, well, go find a stallion. So I'm like, went around, and I phoned Pat, and I phoned Kerry, and I phoned this one, and I phoned that one, and I'm like, this stuff's out of my budget. There's no ways I'm going to breed my mare to a warm blood stallion. And all I want is a
nice warm blood.
So my dad turns around, he says, do you know Uncle Rod's? I said, yes. He says, Uncle Rod down the road has a very nice stallion. So I was like, Dad, what stallion? He says, come, let's go and have a look. So off we go, we take a drive for an afternoon, we go there, we're going to have a look, and I get there, and here's Uncle Rod, also a horseman that taught me a lot. Like, if I ever needed any advice, pick up the telephone. But he was big into his show boerperde, like proper show boerperde. And I had a look at this horse and I was like, yes, he's nice, but I want to be the show jumper. Come on now.
I want a warm blood.
I want a warm blood. So I said to him, well, he's nice. Let me cover my mare. It was a whopping $400.
Oh, wow.
So that was it. And the mare, my dad also had a mare, so we sent 2 mares. Unfortunately, we didn't get foals the first time around.
Okay.
Because there was a massive drought and the horses took a bit of strain, and we didn't get. Second time around, my mare took and my dad's mare didn't take. I think she was just a little bit old. And I bred my first sport horse.
Okay.
Which
amazing.
A lot of people probably know. I don't know if you remember me competing a black horse by the name of Malibu Springs.
Yes.
That was Malibu Springs. She was born in 2000.
Oh wow.
So
she was an awesome little horse.
I bred her. It was one of these funny things, bred her. Back to when I came out of school, she was 3 years old, and I was like, okay, then went overseas. Came back, she was on my friend's farm. I was like, what am I going to do with a small horse?
Yeah, she was a little
she was little. When I backed her, she was only like 15 hands.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, what did I do here?
Yeah.
So I left her for a year. She grew up a bit, and she was like 15, 1.5. I'm like, okay.
Grew up a little bit.
A little bit. Came back, and then I needed a horse to lead the horses we were backing. So I went and fetched on the farm because she was easy.
Yeah.
And the one day I was just riding in my arena there, and we had these drums lying on the side. And obviously this would have been just coming back from overseas, and I jumped over these drums, and my brother was standing, his eyes got this big. And I said, did you see that? And he goes, yes. I get goosebumps when I talk about it. So I said, I'm going to do it again. And he goes, and this horse's back end was just like, she was like teapotting me every time she went over it.
Amazing. That's exciting.
Here's my open horse. And then I started working her, and then then she grew a little bit, and I was like, why are you like growing so slow? Was she getting on, to find out, and just in the breeding side of things, if you use anything that's got a lot of draft in a draft base, they grow very slowly. They mature to the age of 10. So some people take horses at 5, 6 year old eye value and go, I think's tiny, don't touch it. But by the time it's 10, it's like standing 17 hands.
Sure.
So they do progressively grow a lot slower if there's a lot of draft in them. So so she was one of those that I backed, rode, stuck her in the grades, and she just started jumping.
Yeah. And
then I gave her a year off because I broke my collarbone and stuff. So she grew some more. jumped her when I came back from overseas, and I think I went through the grades. I started at 90 and I ended up in 130 by the end of the year on her.
She was an amazing
unreal
little horse, yeah.
And quick, nippy.
A little pocket rocket.
Yeah, she did finish up just under 16 hands.
Okay.
So she did grow right until very, very late. And then, and she was the first horse that I jumped up into opens of my own. I rode 2 EP champs on her. With her, and then I was also selected for the team to go and jump in Kimberley, but then tragedy hit in 2010. It was 2009. She got kicked by a horse and shattered her splint bone.
Oh, shame.
So that's where I kind of disappeared from the riding world.
Okay.
And life had to take its route and everything like that. And I always missed it. Always had my horses. I was breeding more horses on the farm because by this stage I bought myself a warm blood stallion and started breeding my warm bloods.
So you got your warm blood stallion and you carried on breeding from there.
Yeah. So like I said, I couldn't afford a warm blood, so I had to make a lot of deals and sacrifices to get one. And I phoned up all the stud farms trying to find out who at the time had a warm blood colt, because I thought, let me go buy a colt and I'll hang on to it. And if you ever go and try and find a colt, 99.9% of the places they're all gelded, because at 15 to 18 months they start gelding their colts because they are a bit of a nuisance to handle and keep. And at the time, a lot in the breeding world, people were trying to hold their bloodline so tight to them that they wouldn't sell off something.
And if they did have a good one, they keep it for themselves.
They hang on to themselves. So I was very lucky to get hold of Assegai Stud, which had 2 colts that hadn't been gelded.
Okay.
Reason they hadn't been gelded is that they weren't ready to be gelded at the time, so they kind of like missed the bunch.
Okay.
They were born a bit later.
Yeah.
So I went out there and I got to see the two colts, and we loose jumped them. And I remember there was a little pink strawberry roan colt going around, and he jumped beautifully and everything like that. And the one that I eventually got was Assegai Sabi. He went down the long side and said, I'm not jumping the fence, and jumped into the middle where we were standing. And we put him back in there again, and he did the same thing. And he jumped back in. And Kerry said, oh, well, I'm guessing you want that one. I said, no, I want this one. She goes, why? I said, did you see its back end? So she goes, what you going on about the back end? I said, I'll be first to pick a horse with a back end, because a back end you cannot fix on a horse. If it's going to drag rails, it'll drag rails.
Yeah.
Front end, you can exercise. So gymnastics, line work, pole work, you can create a half decent front end.
Yes.
If the horse is a bit slow, you ride it accordingly, give it a bit more space, set it up with the fences, and you'll jump around a track. But when the back end's no good, it's no good.
Yeah.
So she had a price on him at the time, and I think at the time it was like 25 grand, and I'm like, 25 grand. So her and I came to an agreement is how she got some of my ponies. So what I did was I said, okay, I will swap you riding ponies ready for the riding school, because you've got a riding school here.
And back then that was expensive for a horse. Now it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. So I swapped her ponies in lieu of this 2.5-year-old colt.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I got my warm blood stallion. And then, don't let anyone fool you. Breeding is not easy.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to get into breeding, you must remember it's about a 40% return rate. It's not good. Yeah.
And also it's a long process. It's not just okay, you have the foal.
So
you can have the foal, but it needs time.
It's a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
It's I've always said to anyone, if you ever want to breed something, remember it's 5 years of your life. So the first year your mare's in foal, 3 years before you can back it, and then there's a year after that where your project is worth anything.
Yeah.
And then this is where people get upset when it comes to pricing of horses. Because what it costs you to look after that mare, the 3 years, the year of training and production.
It's a lot of time,
effort, and money. And then you do understand why the big warm blood, selling yards and the big stud farms are selling their 4-5-year-olds at the prices that they are, because it costs probably close to a third of what they're selling them for. So that's kind of where you look at it. money-wise when it comes to warm blood horses, and that's why they got the bigger price tag.
So, how many mares did you have?
At the time when I did my warm bloods, I used to cover 10 mares at a time.
Okay.
In the hope of getting 5 foals.
Okay.
So my first year with my stallion was very, very rough. I covered 10 mares. It was a very dry year as well. I'll never forget it. Ascot Stud in a lot of places were losing foals at about 8 months. The mares weren't carrying full term.
With the drought and everything, it affects the pregnancies.
Yeah, so what they found was, and I also, out of my 10 mares, I only had 2 foals, is because the ground was so dry and we were getting these like little showers that were coming in, and there was a type of weed that was popping out the ground.
Amazing.
And the mares were eating that, and that's what was causing their abortions. Yeah.
Poison in a way, yeah.
So luckily when I'd found mine, I'd lost like 4 in one evening, and I eventually got hold of the vets, and Ashley being a vet and a breeder himself, and he was going, listen, where's your farm? What's it? Is it in a valley? Is it a green area normally? And I said, yes. He goes, there's a weed. Move your last mares, because if you don't move your last mares,
they're also gonna
we're gonna have the same thing.
Sure.
So I moved them, and I had two foals out of that bunch. Sadly, both those didn't make it to the arena.
Okay.
The full sister to Noisy Boy over there, she actually was put down here on this property with Kirsten. She's unluckily ended up with tetanus.
Sure.
Having an accident and actually cutting her leg, and she ended up with tetanus, and we had to put her down here.
Oh, shame.
Literally, she was actually coming in to be backed, and she cut herself.
Sure.
One of those freak accidents.
That's awful.
Yeah.
So, looking in the present now, are you still actively breeding, or has that been put on hold? Because I know you've got a few of your own that you're riding.
So what we did was, at the time when I sold my stallion on, my brother kept his horse, Noisy Boy, who became our stud stallion.
Okay.
And then I had one other grey colt at the time, which I kept as well, and I think I've got 1 foal by him. He is out of the same dam as my mare that jumped the open thing, and he was brilliant. He jumped. I actually sold him to Kenya.
Sure.
His name was 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, and he had this personality, and he's loving it in Kenya and doing really, really well there. And that's his full sister there, Spring Rush, and jumps exactly the same.
Sure.
So the dam line, I've always said your dam line's always one of your strong lines. Pick a nice dam. You should get a really nice, competition horse out of it. If you're wanting personality, if your mare's quirky and don't go and pick a quirky stallion to breed with your horse, because you are going to end up with a firecracker.
Yeah.
So kind of dull it down that way around. The same goes if your mare's hot, try and pick a calmer, calmer stallion. But if you like the hot stuff, mix them. Go for it.
I've got a few firecrackers at home.
Yeah. So we bred a couple every year. I managed to get like 4 or 5 foals. And I've got, on the farm at the moment, I think I've left with 15.
Okay.
So that was where, and the last 15 foals are all by Noisy Boy.
Okay.
And I wanted to stop. I haven't quite figured out whether I wanted to carry on yet, but it may look like I'm going to start up again.
Okay.
So and try and get back into the show ring and jump for myself and produce some of my own horses.
Because you've been working at Crestview Stables with Georgia and Kirsten for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That must have been quite an experience as well. It's an awesome team to work with and a lot of horses.
Yeah. So look, the number of horses never ever. It wasn't daunting, put it that way.
More horses.
Yeah, I had 70 of my own horses at one stage.
Sure, that's a lot of
When I had
horses.
breeding, my Delbros Equestrian riding school with the school ponies and everything, and my horses, that was without my livery clients. So at one stage I was sitting with over 100 horses.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not all in one property. Luckily enough, fortunate enough, my father has a farm, and that's why I got away with having so many horses, because I didn't have to feed everything out the bag. So you cut expenses like that. So I was very lucky. I I rented one ground where I had my mares that were very close to foaling, and I put them close to town.
Okay.
So I could check on them every day. But all my youngsters, once they were weaned, they went to the farm. It cost me nothing except vaccinations and, dipping them and stuff like that. So me, I was very lucky in that sense. If you're going to be doing it in a very small thing, expect to spend quite a bit of money on getting horses to grow out nicely. So I moved here to Kirsten in 2017.
Okay.
So I had like a 7-year gap from horses, just left my horses growing up on the farm, breeding a couple every year, and then I'd sell 1 or 2 off the farm.
Yeah.
Jessica Carver's got one of them,
Yes.
Delbros El Camino, and he's jumped into the 120s with her. Don't know why that one didn't grow, but the rest of them all grew bigger. He's the only small one.
Little pocket rockets, come on.
And then another one that I sold, unfortunately I didn't name him, I sold him to East London to Trevelly Dutchman, and then he ended up in Joburg, also jumping in the 120, 125s. And I think it was last year, the year after, I managed to find him up there, which was quite nice. Got to watch him jump, he was brilliant.
Awesome.
And he got sold to Swaziland.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
A lot of horses going out, hey?
And that's the thing, it's nice to see that a lot of our homebred South African horses are also, hitting the markets all over the place.
That's amazing.
We've got quality horses.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we should be importing horses from all over the world. Yeah.
So you are finishing up at Crestview Stables and you are going back to Grahamstown.
Yes, back to the farm.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been an awesome almost 5 years with Kirsten and Georgia. Getting back into the show environment and going to all the big shows, with Georgia being such a competitive rider.
Yeah.
Getting to experience all those top class shows and traveling a lot to Joburg and stuff is really where you want to be.
You learn a lot from sitting on the sidelines too.
Yeah.
And being involved, but also watching, and you can learn a lot by just sitting and watching everybody.
Yeah. So one thing I did learn from Ronnie at the time was, I would always say to him, why aren't you watching the class there? He says, no, I want to go and see what's happening in the warm-up.
Yeah.
Go and watch the people who are jumping in the open classes, how they warm up.
It's a very interesting
You will
pointer.
learn more by sitting there watching that guy exercise his horse in that arena than actually watching him jump around.
Very interesting.
Yeah, like the one small example there at the time was Kieran O'Connor jumping a 15 3-hand horse in the 160s called Casper at Dublin Show, and he was getting ready for the pre-sons, and I watched him set up a 2-strided distance, a placing pole and a big vertical, and he came in there and he was literally putting 3 in that thing, making his horse climb.
Oh really?
Because you're obviously coming into a wall that's standing this high.
And for a little horse.
And it was how he warmed up his horse to jump over that fence, because he came cantering along at that wall, which was standing 7'4" when we were there, and he literally just sat that horse on its hocks and went straight over the top.
Sure.
So that's one thing you learn, and pole work is so important.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to show jump, learn your pole exercises.
You're beating me to all my questions, Wayne.
That's like one of the biggest things I learned over there.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then being here with Kirsten and stuff, we've had a great relationship working together.
Yeah.
Kirsten lets me get on with my own thing. I think she enjoys that, and I go and sit there and chat to her, and she's very knowledgeable herself with horses and the rules and stuff like that. Also with me being out of it, the rules have changed so much in those 7 years. So sitting down with her and having a cup of coffee and talking about how the whole jumping thing, that's been awesome. So it's got me up to scratch. And then just being there for Georgia and going from her pony career right through to her jumping her first adult champs this past weekend has been
amazing.
Yeah, no.
So you're ready to let her be on her own?
Yes, she's a big girl now and she can roll on and go and enjoy her adult career.
Yeah.
And she's got an awesome string of horses.
Yeah, she really
So
does.
yeah, it's not I won't see you again, but I will definitely be around at the shows and hopefully with my own young horses and getting back into it.
So you're going to go and get your horses going.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some new horses and babies going.
Yes, I've got too many there that need to be worked.
Amazing. So we'll definitely be seeing you in the ring.
Definitely, yeah. That is the plan. It's all finance dependent. So, but yes, I will. I've got my mare, and I'm hopefully want to jump her up. It's always been a dream to go and jump the Derby.
Okay.
Was that year that her sister got injured was the year I was actually going up to Derby to go and jump. And I was going to do the micro derby with her that year, so that would have been the 140s, I think.
Yeah.
And then the next year would have tried to do the big class, but obviously now
Things
I've got sister and she's bigger, and we suit each other proportionally a bit better. So yes, hopefully I get to jump her into the top grades. And then I've got a lovely string of youngsters, like really, really nice horses.
Cool. Well, that's something to look out for.
Yeah. And then, like I've always said to people, don't scratch so far away. If you're looking for good horses, look around on your doorsteps. Our local breeders have still got the same good old bloodlines that, that were imported years ago, and they're still some of the best lines that are still being used in all the top yards. Yeah.
So, okay, you've given a lot of very interesting and very accurate pointers for everybody who is listening and watching. In a nutshell, what advice can you give people who really want to be at the top but financially can't afford to be at the top?
It's a tricky one. Look, it's a couple of conversations that I've had with Kirsten sitting around a coffee table and stuff like that.
Because it is a tricky one, and I think people struggle with...
Your base of your riding is your most important, and one thing that her and I both agree on, and we've sat chatting about this a number of times, is what happened to Pony Club?
Yeah.
Pony Club has disappeared. If you can get yourself into Pony Club or into a very good riding school where you can learn the basics, don't skip the basics. And me as a guy, I hate dressage. I've never done a dressage class in my life before, but my flat work and schooling is really good.
Yeah.
I don't blow my own. I can do all the movements. I was taught to do that.
For sure.
My instructor was Pat Paul, who was very much the German way. That's how you do it. Flat work is so get in with a very good instructor, which puts a good base. You need a good base, and then also don't think the most expensive horse is the best horse. I've proven it time and time again where we came from a family which couldn't afford. Our horses were cheap. We bought what my dad could, and we competed what my dad gave us.
And you made it work.
Yeah. And guys, me again, I'll probably get shot for this, but thoroughbreds are still one of the best horses to start a junior career on. There's the junior career, and that's where your telltale is, where people go into their adult career and they want to be very competitive. Your junior career is roughly 4 years.
Yeah.
Children's, it's when you start and you're brave enough to canter around on your pony and jump over poles.
Yeah, the junior career is very short.
Yeah, so for us it was short. It was 14 to 18, so you had 4 years to get into the open junior, level. You can't go and produce a horse in that level.
No.
You must go and look for a thoroughbred that's done a bit, and they produce quicker.
They do, yeah.
And then once you go from that level to the next level, find yourself a really good thoroughbred or a good sport horse that you can jump up.
Yeah.
So it all depending on how ambitious you are, but horse riding is an expensive sport. There's no way getting around that.
For sure.
The cheap part of horse riding, and people also forget this, is buying the horse. You can go and spend R500,000 rand on a horse. It costs you a lot more to look after it.
100%.
Because you cannot park it in the garage when it's sick, like a broken car or broken motorbike. You have to phone the vet.
That's why my dad was always like, just get a motorbike, Amy, get a motorbike.
They're far cheaper.
You can put it in the garage and it doesn't eat while you sleep.
Exactly. So,
sorry, Dad.
So, but it is one of the healthiest sports that you can get any of your kids into. And
also, I think at the moment, especially where we're at in the world, with this pandemic, the schools and sports, it's so different to what it was.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful sport to be outside working with an animal and actually just living and having fun.
Yeah, you form a special bond. You remember, they're not machines and stuff. So if you are gonna get a horse that competes and jumps up the grade for you, and we've seen this as top riders and instructors and people like that, you can pick a horse for somebody there and they'll get that horse and it doesn't go anywhere for them.
Yeah.
And then everyone writes it off as the most useless horse under the sun, but it ends up with some other jockey who just loves it to death and next minute he's jumping 140.
Yeah.
Horses also pick who they want to, and
for sure,
it's a very, very close bond you got to form. And
100%.
Get outside, sun, rain, like I said, become a duck.
Become a duck.
Enjoy the outdoors. It's one of the sports that teaches you, and one thing that I learned was a lot of disappointment, because you can be at the top of your game, and then the next day your horse doesn't feel well, your horse gets hurt. Like me, my horse went and shattered a bone in its leg, and I was meant to go and ride for my province, and then I never got to do that. And I've never jumped in that grade again because
it has
of that.
a lot of highs, but it also has a lot of lows. But it teaches you how to deal with the lows.
It's one of the best sports to teach you to cope.
Yeah.
For those who can afford it, to have a string of 2-3 horses behind them, one gets hurt, they've got a backup. They're very fortunate. But for the average Joe, like most people, it's a single horse that you live for. And I think that creates a more, in my opinion, competent and better rider, that he has that personal bond with 1 or 2 horses than having too many to exercise.
For sure.
That's just me. I've always been a 2-horse. What I can fit in a horse box. If I rode for someone else, then I don't have to bond with their horse. But my horses that jumped for me, that's how I wanted it. They were my special horses.
What is your favorite Blue Steel product?
Oh, tough one. You got to pick a lot of them. Me personally, I've bought your guys' rugs. So the fleeces for the stables, South African weather, we don't get so cold outside, so the fleeces are brilliant. My horses really enjoy their fleeces. With Kirsten's horses, we love the full hoods, especially once we clip the horses and out they go in their full hoods. The overreach boots, the do not turn boots, my brother buys a lot of them from you because his horse tends to trash them, but they are by far, for us, compared to the rubber boots and the other, they last and keep our horse's shoes on, because they can just find a comfortable position. They just keep turning around the horse feet. So I'd probably say those are
your top ones.
The top ones, especially when it comes to that horse and he's keeping his shoes on. So,
it's a pain. Thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been very interesting, and it's been awesome to get to know you and all your experiences. It's amazing, and it's really awesome that you managed to share that with us. And for everybody listening, I'm sure everybody's interested, because I personally didn't know that about you. And it sounds like you've really had a horse-filled life.
No, definitely. And thanks for having me. And it's been awesome sharing this with you guys. And a lot of people just think I'm the farm kid from Grahamstown. And yet I have got quite a lot on my shelf behind me with horses and stuff. And it's going to carry on like that. Horses are in my blood. And that's one thing. Horses in your blood, you never give it up.
That's very,
you can
very
try your
true.
best. You'll never give it up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as well as liking our Facebook page and Instagram page. And we've also got an online shop, so go shopping for all your Blue Steel stuff at www.blue-steel.co.za.